Nephilim, the true story of Goliath and his brothers, biblical stories explain. If you're well versed in the Bible, you've likely heard of the Nephilim, a notorious name in the biblical world associated with legendary battles and mysterious tales. But did these giants truly exist, or are they merely myths? More importantly, do they hold secrets about the origins of humanity that we have yet to uncover? Let's dive in and explore right now. Before we begin, like and subscribe to our channel so that more amazing biblical stories can be shared. Now, let's meet the legendary giants who walked the earth, Nephilim and his brothers. The origin of Nephilim. The origins of the Nephilim, mysterious beings mentioned in the Bible, have been the subject of much debate and speculation among scholars. The term Nephilim is derived from the Hebrew word Nephilim, which is sometimes translated as giants, or interpret their enigmatic nature, and the brief cryptic descriptions in biblical texts have fueled countless theories and interpretations, leaving their true origins shrouded in mystery. The primary source for our understanding of the Nephilim comes from the book of Genesis. Genesis 6:1-4 recounts a time when the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. This union produced the Nephilim, described as the heroes of old, men of renown. The passage further states that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. This suggests a continued presence of Nephilim both before and after the Great Flood. The most contentious element of this account is the identity of the sons of God. One prominent interpretation, often referred to as the fallen angels' view, proposes that these beings were fallen angels who rebelled against God and lusted after human women. This view finds support in extra-biblical texts like the Book of Enoch, which elaborates on the story of these rebellious angels and their offspring, the Nephilim, attributing to them immense size and strength. Proponents of this view often cite the consistent use of sons of God in the Old Testament to refer to angelic beings as evidence. However, other interpretations offer alternative explanations. The Sethite view, favored by some early church fathers, suggests that the sons of God were descendants of Seth, the righteous son of Adam, while the daughters of humans belonged to the lineage of Cain. This interpretation views the Nephilim as the result of a forbidden union between godly and ungodly lines, leading to a degradation of humanity. In this reading, the emphasis is on the moral corruption rather than the physical gigantism of the Nephilim. Another perspective, the heroic warrior view, argues that the Nephilim were not necessarily supernatural beings, but rather elite warriors or kings from ancient times. The phrase men of renown is interpreted as a description of their fame and power rather than their physical stature. This view aligns with other ancient Near Eastern cultures that had legends of mighty heroes and kings. Further complicating the matter is the mythological interpretation, which posits that the Nephilim lore is rooted in pre-existing Near Eastern myths and legends. Scholars point to figures like the Apkul-Lo of Sumerian mythology. This view suggests that the Genesis account might be a reinterpretation or adaptation of earlier mythological theme. Despite the various interpretations, the biblical text itself offers limited information about the Nephilim. Their size, while often imagined as gigantic, is not definitively stated. Numbers 13:33 does mention seeing people of great size in Canaan, fueling the giant interpretation, but details remain scant. The ambiguity surrounding the Nephilim has, in many ways, contributed to their enduring fascination. Their mysterious origins and the dramatic implications of their existence, whether as monstrous offspring of fallen angels or as powerful figures from a bygone era, have captivated imaginations for centuries. While their true nature may remain elusive, the Nephilim, continue to stand as powerful symbols of the complexities and enduring mysteries of the biblical narrative. The story of true monster, Goliath and David. Among the legendary Nephilim, Goliath is a name that cannot be overlooked. Goliath, the towering warrior from Gath, stands as a legendary figure in the biblical narrative, forever etched in our minds as the embodiment of formidable power and overwhelming. His story, recounted in 1 Samuel 17, transcends a mere battle account. It becomes a timeless parable about the triumph of faith and divine strength over seemingly insurmountable obstacles. The Valley of Elah became a crucible of fear as a colossal shadow stretched across the battlefield. Goliath's presence on the battlefield was nothing short of terrifying. Towering over his adversaries at 6 cubits and a span, tall, approximately 9 feet 9 inches, he was a giant in every sense of the word. His bronze armor, weighing a staggering 125 pounds, and his massive spear with a 15-pound head further emphasized his extraordinary strength and battle prowess. For 40 days, he taunted the Israelite army, his booming voice echoing across the valley, challenging them to send a champion to face him in single combat. Fear gripped the hearts of seasoned soldiers, paralyzing them in the face of this seemingly invincible foe. Goliath was not merely a soldier. He was a symbol of Philistine might, a living testament to their dominance and a stark reminder of the Israelites' perceived vulnerability. His booming voice, echoing across the valley, shattered the uneasy silence as he issued a challenge steeped in ancient tradition. A duel of champions, a single combat that would decide the fate of entire armies. The winner's side would claim victory, the loser's utter defeat. For 40 long days, Goliath strode onto the battlefield, morning and evening, his challenge reverberating through the ranks. Each day, he bellowed his taunts, mocking the Israelites' God, and daring each day, his words sunk deeper into the hearts of the Israelite soldiers, eroding their courage and fueling their doubt. The seasoned veterans, hardened by previous battles, found themselves trembling in fear. The young recruits, eager to prove their mettle, were now gripped by a terror that chilled them to the bone. Goliath's presence was more than just physical. It was a psychological weapon, a siege engine designed to crush the Israelite spirit before the battle even began. His armor, his spear, his booming voice, all served to amplify his imposing stature, creating. The Israelites were caught in a debilitating dilemma. Their pride demanded a response to Goliath's taunts, but their fear paralyzed them. To refuse the challenge was to admit defeat, to surrender their dignity and acknowledge Philistine supremacy. Yet, to accept meant sending one of their own to a near certain death. The shadow of Goliath loomed large, casting a long and dark shadow of uncertainty and fear over the Israelite camp, as 40 days of taunts chipped away at their resolve, testing their faith and pushing them to the brink of despair. David and the battle with Goliath. What about David? Who is he? The Valley of Elah echoed with the taunts of Goliath, the giant Philistine champion. Fear paralyzed the Israelite army. Seasoned veterans reduced to trembling shadows of their former selves. Hope seemed to dwindle with each passing day as Goliath's booming voice reverberated across the battlefield, challenging their courage and mocking their God. But unbeknownst to them, a young shepherd named David, oblivious to the unfolding drama, journeyed towards the valley, carrying not weapons of war, but provisions for his brothers, serving in King Saul's army. David's arrival at the Israelite camp was unassuming. He was a mere youth, ruddy-cheeked and slender, carrying a shepherd's staff and a sack filled with bread and cheese. His brothers, hardened by the realities of war, greeted him with a mix of surprise and annoyance. They saw him as a boy intruding on a man's world, oblivious to the gravity of the situation. But David, though young, possessed a spirit that transcended his physical stature. He had spent countless hours tending his father's sheep, learning the rhythms of nature, developing a keen awareness of his surroundings, and cultivating an unwavering trust in God's protection. He had faced down lions and bears, rescuing his flock from their jaws, not with brute strength, but with a combination of courage, cunning, and an unshakable faith in God's presence. As David inquired about the commotion and the cause of the soldiers' fear, his brothers scoffed at his naivete. They described Goliath, the monstrous Philistine champion, his size, his armor, his size, his armor, his terrifying spear. They recounted his challenge, the offer of single combat, and the promised reward for the victor. But David, instead of succumbing to fear, felt a surge of righteous anger. He was incensed, not by Goliath's physical prowess, but by his blasphemous insults. He saw not a giant, but a defiant enemy of God, a symbol of arrogance and pride, destined to be vanquished. While the seasoned soldiers cowered, David, fueled by his faith and a deep sense of justice, boldly declared his intention to face Goliath. His brothers were stunned. King Saul, skeptical of the young shepherd's audacity, questioned his experience and preparedness. But David, unfazed by their doubts, recounted his encounters with wild beasts, emphasizing that it was God's strength, not his own, that had secured his victory. He proclaimed, "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." When David approached Saul, he expressed his willingness to fight Goliath, recounting his experiences of defeating a lion and a bear while protecting his sheep. David assured Saul that the Lord who delivered him from those predators would also deliver him. Saul, impressed by David's courage, reluctantly agreed and offered him his armor. However, David chose to fight without it, relying instead on his faith and his skills as a shepherd. David's confidence was not born of arrogance or naivete. It stemmed from a profound understanding of God's faithfulness and a personal experience of his protection. He understood that God's power was not confined to conventional weapons, or it was available to anyone who placed their trust in him, regardless of their age, experience, or outward appearance. Refusing the king's offer of armor, deeming it cumbersome and unfamiliar, David chose to enter the battlefield armed with the tools of his shepherd's trade: a staff, a sling, and 5 smooth stones, carefully selected from the stream. These simple weapons, imbued with the weight of his faith, were not merely tools of defense. They were symbols of his trust in God's providence, his willingness to be a vessel for divine intervention. As David approached Goliath, the giant Philistine, amused by the sight of the young shepherd, unleashed a torrent of mockery and threats. But David, unperturbed by the giant's taunts, stood firm, his youthful face radiating a serenity. He proclaimed that he came not in his own strength, but in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom Goliath had defied. David boldly responded, declaring that he came in the name of the Lord Almighty, emphasizing that the battle belonged to God. As Goliath moved to attack, David ran toward him, slung a stone, and struck Goliath in the forehead. The stone sank into his head, and the giant fell face down to the ground. David then ran to Goliath, took the giant's sword, and killed him, cutting off his head. The death of Goliath sent shockwaves through the Philistine army, causing them to flee in fear. The Israelites, emboldened by David's victory, pursued the Philistines and won a decisive battle. In that moment, David embodied the courage of a shepherd's heart. He stood not as a seasoned warrior, but as a humble servant of God, willing to face impossible odds, trusting that God's strength would manifest through his weakness, and that faith, even the faith of a shepherd boy, could indeed move mountains, or in this case, fell giants. This story not only highlights David's faith and courage, but also serves as a powerful reminder of the belief that with God's help, even the seemingly impossible can be overcome. David's triumph over Goliath has become a symbol of faith, bravery, and the victory of good over evil, resonating through generations as a testament to the power of divine intervention. The enigmatic kin of Goliath, giants among men. The biblical tale of David and Goliath is a classic underdog story. We all know the outcome. Young David, armed with faith and a slingshot, defeats the Philistine giant, Goliath. But what of Goliath himself and the brothers hinted at in the biblical text? Their existence, lineage, and connection to ancient races of giants raise fascinating questions about identity and the blurred lines between history and myth. The book of Samuel tells us Goliath had a brother named Lami, slain not by David, but by David's brother, Elhanan, 1 Chronicles 25. This single mention opens a window into Goliath's familial world, hinting at others who shared his immense stature and warriorland. But were they merely unusually tall men, products of advantageous genetics, or something more? Some scholars believe Goliath and his kin belonged to the Nephilim, a race of giants mentioned in Genesis 6:4. These mighty men were said to be the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men, their existence marking a time of great wickedness on earth. While intriguing, this theory relies on interpreting the phrase sons of God as fallen angels, a debated topic among theologians. A more likely explanation, based on textual clues, connects Goliath and his brothers to the Rephaim. Deuteronomy 2:11 calls the Rephaim a great and tall people, like the Anakim, the very clan from which Goliath hailed. 1 Samuel 17:4. This verse directly links the two groups, suggesting a shared ancestry and possibly a shared gigantism. Further solidifying this connection, several passages in the Bible describe the Rephaim as a formidable people, renowned for their size and strength. Og, the king of Bashan, a powerful enemy defeated by the Israelites, is specifically identified as of the remnant of the Rephaim. Deuteronomy 3:11. These textual connections paint a compelling picture. Goliath and his brothers were not isolated giants, but likely descendants of the Rephaim, a race famed for its size and power. Their existence represented a fading remnant of a past age, a time when giants walked the earth. However, it is important to remember that the Bible is not a purely historical text. It blends historical accounts with theological interpretations and literary devices. Whether Goliath and his brothers were literally giants or their stature is exaggerated for symbolic purposes remains open to debate. Nevertheless, their story continues to fascinate us. They embody the other, the monstrous, and the seemingly insurmountable challenges we face in life. By examining their lineage and potential connection to ancient races of giants, we delve into a world where history, myth, and faith intertwine, leaving us with more questions than answers. And perhaps that is the enduring power of these enigmatic figures, to remind us that some mysteries are best left unexplored, their answers lost to the sands of time. The story of Ishbi-benob and Abishai loyalty. The story of Ishbi-benob and Abishai's loyalty is a powerful narrative that highlights the ongoing struggle between the Israelites and the Philistines, as well as the importance of loyalty and courage in the face of adversity. The story begins with the Philistines once again at war with Israel. David, now older and weary from battles, went down with his servants to engage the Philistines. It was during this conflict that Ishbi-benob, a formidable warrior descended from the giants, posed a significant threat to David's life. Ishbi-benob, armed with a bronze spear weighing 300 shekels and a new sword, intended to kill the king. As Ishbi-benob closed in on David, the king grew weary and seemed vulnerable. However, Ishbi-benob failed to consider the power of God and the loyal defenders who stood by David. At that crucial moment, Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, and David, Abishai struck down Ishbi-benob, killing him. Abishai's act of loyalty and courage was not an isolated incident in his relationship with David. Throughout the biblical narrative, Abishai consistently demonstrated his unwavering support for the king. He was one of the three commanders entrusted with leading David's forces during Absalom's rebellion. Abishai also held a prominent position among David's mighty men, wielding his spear against 300 men and killing them. The story of Ishbi-benob serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggle between the Israelites and the Philistines. The giants, including Ishbi-benob and his brothers, posed a formidable challenge to David and his people. Their existence and the battles fought against them underscore the importance of faith, courage, and divine intervention in overcoming seemingly insurmountable obstacles. After Abishai's heroic act, David's men realized the importance of protecting their leader. They swore an oath that David, the Lamp of Israel, should no longer risk himself in battle. This decision reflects the deep loyalty and respect they had for their king, acknowledging that his life was vital for the nation. Abishai's loyalty to David is a testament to the power of friendship and the importance of standing by those who lead with integrity and faith. Even in the face of daunting challenges, Abishai remained steadfast, willing to put his own life on the line to save his king and friend. This story serves as an inspiration for all who seek to cultivate loyal relationships and support those in positions of leadership. The battles against Saph, Lami, and the unnamed giant. Goliath had several brothers, as mentioned in 2 Samuel 21, 18:22, and 1 Chronicles 24:8. After Goliath's defeat, his brothers also faced the wrath of David and his men. The Bible records that Goliath's brother Lami was killed by Elhanan, while another brother named Saph was slain by Sibbechai, the Hushathite. These battles against Goliath's brothers further affirmed the Israelites' faith in God, while the name Goliath resonates through history as the Philistine giant felled by David, few know of his brother Lami. This obscurity does not diminish Lami's significance. He emerges from the pages of the Bible as a shadowy figure intertwined with his brother's legend and the brutal reality of the Israelite-Philistine conflict. Our primary glimpse of Lami comes from 1 Chronicles 25, a passage detailing ongoing battles between the Israelites and their formidable foes. It succinctly states, Elhanan son of Jair struck down Lami, the brother of Goliath, the Gittite. This single Lami, like his brother, was a warrior of Gath, a Philistine city known for its fierce fighters. The moniker brother of Goliath further implies that Lami shared the same extraordinary lineage, likely possessing the same imposing size and strength that made Goliath. The circumstances surrounding Lami's death are shrouded in the chaos of battle. The text offers no elaborate duel, no personal encounter akin to David and Goliath. Instead, Lami falls in the midst of a larger conflict, slain by Elhanan. This lack of detail, however, speaks volumes about the constant state of war that defined this era. For the Israelites, facing giants like Lami was not an isolated event, but a recurring threat. Even after Goliath's demise, the threat of the Philistine giants remained. Lami, whether killed by Elhanan or mistaken for another giant in a later retelling, symbolizes this ongoing struggle. His very existence served as a reminder to the Israelites that their fight for survival was far from over. Each battle, each fallen giant was a step towards securing their land and their future. Lami, though largely forgotten by history, stands as a testament to the often overlooked casualties of war. He is a reminder that behind every legendary figure like Goliath, there are others equally formidable, fighting in the shadows. Though Goliath may have cast the larger shadow, Lami's presence reminds us that the battle for dominance raged on, claiming the lives of many giants along the way. The ongoing conflict between the Israelites and the Philistines was a breeding ground for legendary warriors and tales of extraordinary feats. While David's victory over Goliath stands as the most iconic encounter, The battles raged on, giving rise to heroes like Sibbecai the Hushathite, a valiant warrior in David's elite force. And it is in one such battle that Sibbecai faced a formidable foe, a descendant of giants named Saph. The book of 1 Chronicles recounts this clash of titans. 1 Chronicles 24 states, "And there was war again at Gezer with the Philistines, at which time Sibbecai the Hushathite slew Sibbecai, that was of the sons of the giant." Though brief, this passage offers a glimpse into a battle of immense significance, highlighting the persistence of the giant bloodline and the courage required to face such a threat. Saph, also referred to as Sippai in some biblical translations, is described as a descendant of the giant, likely referring to a lineage of giants, perhaps even tracing back to the Rephaim, a fearsome people renowned for their size and strength. This lineage alone marked Saph as a dangerous adversary, carrying the legacy of his ancestors on his shoulders. The battle took place near Gezer, a strategically important city often caught in the crossfire between the Philistines and Israelites. Details surrounding the encounter remain scant, but the fact that it is singled out in the biblical text speaks to its importance. Sibbecai, a member of David's mighty men, was no stranger to war, yet his victory over Saph clearly stood out, marking him as a warrior of exceptional skill and bravery. This battle, however, signifies more than a single victory. It underscores the continuous threat posed by the Philistine giants, even after Goliath's fall. Each generation seemingly produced individuals who inherited the extraordinary physique and martial prowess of their forebears, ensuring the conflict remained fierce and perilous for the Israelites. While Goliath's shadow looms large over the history of Israelite Philistine conflict, his defeat did not mark the end of giants. The Bible recounts encounters with other formidable foes, their extraordinary lineage posing a constant threat to the fledgling nation. One such adversary, unnamed yet no less menacing, emerges from the battlefields of Gath, a stark reminder that even in victory, new challenges await. This unnamed giant, distinguished by his 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, totaling a remarkable 24 digits, embodied the persistent danger posed by the giant bloodline. His unusual physiology, likely passed down from the fearsome Rephaim mentioned throughout the Bible, marked him as a descendant of the mighty men of old, striking fear into the hearts of even seasoned warriors. The setting of Gath, Goliath's hometown, and a symbol of Philistine resistance, further amplifies the tension surrounding this encounter. It was here, amidst the familiar backdrop of conflict, that the unnamed giant challenged the Israelites, his taunts echoing the defiance that had become synonymous with this place. However, the Israelites had learned a powerful lesson from David's victory over Goliath. True strength lies not in size or numbers, but in unwavering faith in God. This time it was Jonathan, the son of Shemaiah and a nephew of David. The text offers no elaborate duel, no drawn-out display of strength. Jonathan, empowered by faith and driven by the courage of his lineage, confronted the giant head. His victory, echoing David's triumph years earlier, served as a resounding declaration that the spirit of David lived on in the next generation. This victory, though seemingly less renowned than David's defeat of Goliath, carries immense significance. It demonstrates that the Israelites had learned from their past, recognizing that even the most daunting adversaries paled in comparison to the might of God. It underscored the importance of courage and resilience, qualities embodied by champions like Jonathan, who refused to cower in the face of extraordinary odds. These battles illustrate that even after David's legendary victory over Goliath, the Israelites continued to face threats from the giant's descendants, yet God raised up new leaders: Ishai, Sibbecai, Elhanan, and Jonathan. The narrative underscores that Israel's true strength didn't lie in their numbers or weapons, but in their unwavering faith in God. Each victory over the giants reaffirmed the belief that the battle belongs to the Lord, just as David had declared. These stories remind us that even the mightiest adversaries cannot stand against those who trust in God's strength and guidance. The defeats of Saf, Lami, and the unnamed giant highlight the importance of resilience, courage, and reliance on divine. When giants walked the earth, the Nephilim and God's regret. The Bible paints a vivid picture of a time when giants walked the earth. These weren't merely exceptionally tall individuals, but the Nephilim, a race born from a forbidden union that ultimately led to divine sorrow and a world engulfed in chaos. Their story, though, shrouded in mystery, offers profound lessons about sin, judgment, and the enduring love of God. Genesis 6:1-4 introduces us to this enigmatic chapter in human history. It describes the sons of God taking wives from among the daughters of men, resulting in the birth of the Nephilim. This intermingling grieved God deeply, leading to the cataclysmic flood that cleansed the earth and offered humanity a chance for renewal. Interpretations of who these sons of God were vary. Some believe they were fallen angels, others suggest powerful human leaders, while some argue they represent the righteous descendants of Seth marrying into the lineage of Cain. As angelic beings throughout the Old Testament lends credence to the first interpretation. Regardless of their exact nature, the Nephilim, the offspring of this forbidden union, are consistently depicted as mighty men, renowned for their strength and wickedness. Their presence contributed to the widespread corruption and violence that ultimately broke God's heart, leading him to declare in Genesis 6:6, "And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart." This passage, often misunderstood, doesn't imply regret in the sense of a mistake. Rather, it conveys the profound sorrow of a loving God witnessing his creation consumed by darkness. It highlights his deep capacity for grief and his unwavering love for humanity, even as they strayed from his path. The subsequent flood, while a devastating judgment, also served as an act of mercy, a cleansing of the earth, and a chance for a new beginning. It stands as a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked sin and underscores God's desire for repentance and restoration. The recurring battles against giants throughout the Old Testament, from David's victory over Goliath to the exploits of his mighty men, echo this larger narrative. They symbolize the challenges we face in life, the internal and external struggles against seemingly insurmountable. These stories, however, are ultimately not about giants, but about the God who empowers us to overcome them. They inspire courage and resilience, reminding us that true strength lies not in our own abilities, but in our own abilities, but in our The victories of David and his men remind us that even the most formidable adversaries, the giants in our lives, cannot stand against the might of God. The saga of the Nephilim serves as a timeless cautionary tale, urging us to remember the consequences of turning away from God. Yet, woven within this narrative of judgment and redemption is a message of hope. No matter how far we stray, God's love remains constant, offering us a path back to Him and the promise of victory over even the most overwhelming challenges. Thank you for following along with us today. Please leave a comment to share your insights on the story we covered. If you're passionate about discovering the Bible's deeper secrets, subscribe now and stay tuned as we explore this intriguing and sorrowful past.